Welcome to Speech 145. So, I wanted to take a little time to kind of walk you through the course, but I'm also going to cover all of week one. So, throughout the semester, you will get a weekly video for each week of the semester. This video is going to be longer than all the other weekly videos simply because I am going to cover where to find things, some important documents that you may need throughout the semester, as well as going over this week's content. So, this course is designed so that you do not need to purchase a textbook. I have provided you with all the content that you need for this class. Another big thing within the way this course is built is there are options for every single assignment. So, if you are a high school student and you are working from your school computer, if you cannot use one of the websites that I ask, not a big deal. There's other ways to still complete this course. So we're going to hop into the class. When you log into Blackboard, it's going to look kind of similar to this, a little bit different just because I'm in teacher mode. Nothing is opened on your side while I'm recording this, so I've got to work from my side. One of the first things you're going to want to do is just kind of check out the course in general, the overview. Everything is broken down into modules, and every module is a weekly module, and that is just to make it a little bit easier for you. So, when you get to the course, checking out the Get Started Here tab is going to be really helpful to you. There's a couple things in there, accessibility and privacy statements for the common software. So any of the software programs that I recommend to you, all of their privacy and accessibility statements can be found within this document tab. If it is something that you have chosen to use outside of what I have recommended, it is not going to include that information just because it's beyond what I have suggested that you use. I would recommend just kind of checking out those privacy statements, accessibility statements, just so you're aware of what is being shared of your personal information. So there's a welcome to class video. You can watch it if you want to. I am not going to be upset. My feelings are not going to be hurt if you don't. Virtual office hours. This is just a great way if you need to have like a longer conversation and you want to talk over Zoom, you're going to want to you're going to want to select a slot to have that conversation in. If it is just a quick question, don't use virtual office hours. Just send me an email, whether it is through Blackboard or it is through your student email. I do want to touch on something that's really important. I cannot respond to high school emails or personal emails. The only email I am legally allowed to respond to via FERPA rules are your student email from my student email. So I cannot email you from my personal email and I cannot respond to you from your personal email. So that's going to be really important. If you are having trouble with your student email, reach out to IT. But also remember, there is the messaging system through Blackboard. You're just going to get a faster response if you are emailing me from your student email to my faculty email because that is connected to my phone. I don't have to log in every single time. And I don't know if anyone's experienced the Blackboard app, but it is horrible and not always does the messaging system work. So there's just a couple other things in here, netiquette for communicating online, how to upload to YouTube, because I do ask you to use YouTube. Again, if you have a school issued computer and it prevents you from using YouTube, not a big deal. I have alternatives for every assignment. This is just, I think, a very entertaining video about how to properly email a professor. This doesn't just apply to my class, but really any class of how to ensure that you're getting your message as clearly as possible across to that professor. How to download Microsoft programs. There's a couple assignments that we will use Microsoft Word. This is just going to help you find how to access Word in your student email. And then this is just a fun little infographic on taking an online course and how it can help you succeed in your online course. So, course content, if you click on this tab, it's just going to have a couple of helpful things for you. The participation confirmation course. This does not impact my class. in any way, what this can impact is your financial aid. So this actually has nothing to do with my class. This is provided by our financial aid office just to ensure that you are actively participating in the class. So they do ask that you don't start it until the first day of school, but they also want that done really quickly. So I have it designed to be due by the end of the second day of class. If you join the class late, please don't panic. It is open all semester long. I'm not going to shut it down once the semester starts. So just make sure you are completing that as soon as you are in the course. So the next thing I'm going to touch on is the syllabus and schedule. I'm going to tell you, the syllabus is long, and I'm aware of that. The biggest reason for that is every semester something comes up and there's a need to add something else to the syllabus. It's also pretty detailed as far as directions and timelines. There is at the very end, if you scroll all the way to the bottom of this 18 pages, there is a weekly schedule. So if you do anything with it, I mean, it's really good to read over the syllabus at least once just to have an idea, but at a bare minimum, it's going to be really important that you take the time to maybe even print off that calendar at the very end of this. So again, I provide all materials to you. This course is done as the same learning outcomes as a face-to-face. So whether we're in the classroom or we are doing this all online, you're still going to get the equivalent of a face-to-face class. So that's really important to remember. So it is online. You have to be able to have access to the internet throughout the semester. Saying I don't have internet access is not going to work. You do have access on campus to online, but it is an online course, so you do need to have access to the internet to complete this course. You will not be physically present at a location. I do not have weekly meetings that you have to log in and attend. It is self-directed. I will give you lots of direction, but it is for the most part self-directed, and you will have to complete work by the due dates. But there's always the option of working ahead for most of the assignments for this course. So some of the main resources that you're going to use for this course are Blackboard, obviously, student email. You can also use Zoom, Prezi, Canva for recording. There's so many different options out there for how to record in this course. It is going to be really important that you pay close attention to the schedule and the due dates. All of the major due dates for this class are on Sundays. I like to make them on Sundays. That way, if you play sports during the week, if you have a full-time job that you're working throughout the week, if you just have a lot of activities going on, I know Monday through Friday can be very, very, very hectic. I know we spend a lot of time in the car running to and from things. So I like to make sure that everybody has time on the weekend to complete that work. So everything is due on Sunday in this course, except for when we get to the end of the semester, and that is dictated by the end of the semester date, not necessarily by my timeline. So, feedback and communication. I am normally pretty quick to respond back to you. I do not answer emails after 6 p.m. And I normally, sometimes if I'm up early, I will respond before 8 a.m., but I generally don't respond to emails between 6 p.m. and 8 a.m. And that is because I have 3 children, and that is dinner, bath, bed, very chaotic times, and that's also the time frame that we're getting everybody to school. So, if you send me an email between those hours, you will not receive an answer until the next day. So, sending me an email at 11:50 is not going to work. For feedback, you're going to get feedback for every single assignment. And you're going to, whether it's in the rubric or it's actual written feedback, it could be a combination, you will get feedback for everything in this course. And I normally work as quickly as possible. I try to get it back to you within the week of the assignment being turned in. So technology, you've got to have at least, like I said, internet. You can test your internet speed to make sure it's going to be fast enough for things like uploading to YouTube if you're going to be going that route, for recording, all that good stuff. And like I said, most of this, I'm not going to read it word for word because you can read through it. If you are uploading something, one big thing, if your link does not work, I cannot grade it. So if you mark your assignment as private on YouTube, I cannot access that. So you've got to make sure that all of your links on YouTube are marked as unlisted. That way they have to have the exact link to find it, but it also allows me to view it. So you've got to make sure that you are checking email. That is going to be super, super important. I send a lot of reminders to you and things like that. So make sure that you're able to check your email, your student email to be exact. If you are having issues with Blackboard, with student email, with anything like that, I am not tech support. That is not within my realm. So it's going to be really important that you are making sure you are reaching out to the help desk. I do have the phone number and the email. From my personal experience, submitting a ticket through IT has been more effective. I get responses, I get issues resolved a lot faster. But sometimes it's something really simple and you can just call them or email them and you're going to get the same level of response. So, assignments for this class, there will be multiple assignments. There's going to be assignments that are going to kind of help prep for the bigger part of the end of that unit. There might be little assignments that are going to help build some of the skills you need for our final big project for this course. And then there's also going to be feedback where you're going to provide feedback on specific assignments, and it will tell you each week if there is a feedback requirement. Really, the only two assignments that you're going to really provide feedback are going to be your major podcast and your major advocacy. It's just because we're required to have you do some type of peer feedback interaction in this course. And so I just try to keep it to two assignments early in the semester so that we're not worrying about doing peer feedback later in the semester. We will do some social media advocacy that you will use Blue Sky or X. But again, I also realize that there are some high school students that your computer is not going to allow you to access those programs. So that is not the end of the world if you're not able to access it once you get into the assignment. I do give some direction of how you can complete the assignment without using either of those platforms. So I kind of mentioned podcasting earlier. You will do three podcasts, one short, one by yourself, and then one that's going to be like a longer interview style. So you'll get to see each of those, and they're designed one to get you comfortable with talking to your computer, one to get you comfortable with giving a short and easy interview, and then one that will be the full interview. So, like I said, everything's going to kind of build. We will do some informing. This is going to be one of the first assignments you do, this photo voice. This is your chance to kind of tell us about yourself. So, advocacy, you will do a lot of advocacy in this course, and our major assignment is going to be a combination of informing and advocating. You're going to inform us about a policy, and then you're going to advocate for the change to that policy. So, again, I'm not going to read all of these assignments because we will get more into detail for each of these. There are reading checks at the end of most weeks. I say most because there is not one at the end of week one. But these are designed just to make sure that you understood the material that was presented to you in the readings for that week. Due dates and late assignments. So again, everything is due on Sunday. I do not accept late work. So if you miss a deadline, emailing me your link saying, "Oh, I missed it. I'm so sorry." I don't accept it that way. It has to be submitted through Blackboard. I do understand that life happens. So if there is a major situation happening, normally there is, you had to have emergency surgery. There's always like documentation for that kind of stuff. But if you just had a lot going on, or maybe you just didn't feel it, you just weren't feeling like getting that assignment done. I do have something called the Oops Dropbox. It does allow you to submit one assignment late for full credit, but otherwise, everything must be submitted to Blackboard on time. Late work is just, it piles up, and this is college. We don't accept tons of late work. It's just not feasible in a professor's grading to accept tons of late work. Make sure you're saving everything. Do not record, upload, and then delete your video until it's been graded. Hang on to that video just in case something happens. Maybe it crashed during the upload process. You want to make sure you always have access to all of that work. You can absolutely save stuff to OneDrive, and that's going to make your life a little bit easier. So that's kind of just like a rundown of the assignments and the point value. It is worth a 1,000 point value course. And then that's going to break down how your points will actually play out as far as your letter grade. So we do have all of your normal information in here, the non-discrimination policy, student disability accommodations. If you know that you need to have accommodations for the course, make sure you're doing that immediately. Do not wait, because accommodations are not retroactivated, which means they start the day that you are approved. So if you need accommodations, please do not wait to get those going. You do have access to a lot of the support services that are provided through USC Columbia. So don't forget to take some time to look over those resources. Academic integrity. So the biggest thing, don't lie, don't cheat, don't steal. Don't try to use AI. To be honest, it's actually more work for students to try to use AI in this course because you're recording yourself. So to be honest, it's more work to attempt to use AI for this course. But you can use AI for helping you find, sources. It going into ChatGPT and saying, this is my topic. What are some great sources? And it could help spit out some really great ideas for you. And it's a great resource to get you started on a lot of these projects. So copyright and intellectual property, you cannot use anything, images, videos, music, or sound that you did not produce yourself or that you don't own. So using a popular song in the background is not allowed because it is a copyright infringement. So just making sure. I know where the image thing comes into question. People ask, well, the photo voice, I don't own the images, my mom does. That is a completely different situation. So there is a statement, kind of general statement from the university, just making sure you're not misrepresenting or misleading others with respect to academic work or misrepresenting facts for an academic advantage. So scheduling and course progression, this is where I kind of talked to you about earlier. It breaks it down by the week. The dates are included in there, the due date, and everything that you have, all of your reading, all of your assignments that are going to be due on that Sunday. So I have it for the entire week. The big thing to note, all coursework is due by 11:59 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. At 11:59, Blackboard locks those assignments and it will not let you submit. So if you log in at 11:58 and you start to submit it and 11:59 rolls over, it will close out. So do not wait until the last minute for submitting things for this course. So this is not all updated yet. It will be by the time the course starts, but weekly folders, everything you're going to need is going to be in the weekly folder. It will be listed with the week, the dates that those weeks fall under, and then everything you need for that week. So at this point, I am going to move into week one and just kind of talk through week one with you. So all of your readings, any videos that you're going to need to watch for that week are all going to be included in this week one folder. So you've got tips for using Zoom, how to join a Zoom session, how to schedule a meeting, how to record on Zoom. Why do I have so much Zoom stuff here? Well, the simple reason is our very first project this week, you will be recording yourself. You will need to be on camera. And so I always recommend Zoom because it is one of the easier platforms to use. There's also other platforms you can use to complete this assignment. Don't worry, I provide some other resources in here as well. So all of these are just videos from Zoom that talk you through how to use Zoom. This is going to be your actual reading that you're going to do. The speech of introduction. So it's just going to give you a general idea of what a speech of introduction looks like. Special occasion speeches, giving a speech of introduction. These two things right here are really going to be what is covered in the quiz because you will get a reading check over this and the reading for next week in next week's folder. So taking the time to read through both of those is going to be really, really important. I do have a lecture here, so if you want to hear a lecture over all of these, you are more than welcome to do. I do not have lectures throughout the entire semester. It's just to kind of get you started and get you going with learning how to focus your reading. There is a syllabus quiz. This is going to be due on Sunday. It is open note. There is no time limit. There is a forced completion. So that means once you start the quiz, you've got to finish it. And this quiz only has one attempt. One thing I want to note, the quiz will be hand graded because Blackboard is very, very, very picky, making sure you have exactly what it expects. So the quiz will be hand graded. Please wait for your final grade to be posted before you reach out and say, hey, I think I got that right. This happens all the time. So just wait. I promise. You'll get your grade updated. I'm going to skip this one really quick just because I did provide you with some additional resources of how to record in other platforms for the assignment we're going to talk about in a minute. So Prezi is an option, Canva, Loom. I have used Prezi. I've used Canva. I've never used Loom personally, but I have had several students who have, and they like it. So that is also an option. Google Meet, I have not recorded in Google Meet either, just because I'm not a Google Meet person. We have access to Zoom through USC, so that's what I typically use. And then of course we do have access to Microsoft Teams, but I am not a big fan of Teams, but it's also an option. And then you have access through your USC student email to record through Microsoft Teams. So I'm going to pop back up to the photo voice. This is your major assignment for this week. It's going to be a speech of introduction. So for this speech, you're going to be talking about you. So it should be a topic that you know a lot about. You're going to use at least 5 to 7 photos. You can absolutely have more photos than that if you would like. You will take those photos and you're going to put them together and you're going to tell a little bit of a story about who you are, things that represent you, and what makes your life so extraordinary. So, time limit 2.5 minutes. Totally fine if you go over on time. That is something really big. I never take off points for people being over on time on anything. It only hurts your grade if you are under on time. You must be on camera. I do have one of myself here. It is older. I don't know why it keeps reverting back to my older one. I do have a newer one, but even that one's a year old at this point. So I will try to update my newer video for you guys to see, just so you can see how my kiddos have grown since 2022. So you don't have to watch mine, but you're more than welcome. It will kind of give you an idea. You can use PowerPoint, Prezi, Canva, or any other kind of visual aid to complete this project. But again, you have to be on camera during your presentation. So that is all I have for you for this week. If you think of any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out. I am happy to answer any questions about the course while I am thinking about it and before I let you go. The Oops Dropbox, that's that box I talked about earlier where you can submit one assignment late. That is right here at the bottom of the weekly folders. That's where you can submit your one late assignment. So if you think of anything, please don't hesitate to reach out. And I'm looking forward to getting to know each of you. Have a great rest of your day, everybody.